Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be playing a very special fan project called Project Eden's Garden. Now, I have been following this project for an extremely long time, and I even played the prologue quite a bit ago. However, as of today, which is December 20th, 2024, Chapter 1 of Project Eden's Garden has officially released, and today we're going to be playing it. However, we will be playing through the prologue first, just as like a refresher, as getting a little bit of a recap, and then we'll be playing all of Chapter 1 completely all the way through. And before we get into the game, to the Project Eden's Gardens team, I'm not just saying this because I'm playing your game on my channel. I really do mean when I say this. This is one of the most polished and well put together Danganronpa fan projects I have ever seen on this planet. So I just want to give a huge shout out and thank you to you guys for creating such an amazing game and such an amazing product. And thank you all so much for being so dedicated to this product as well. And, you know, I really hope that this launch day for you is everything you were hoping for and more. And I really hope that this chapter was everything that I was hoping for and more. So without further ado, I and my trusty Monokuma sidekick on the side of me are going to get right into this game. Stay tuned.
Messing with a lock in pitch blackness. Whew, now that would be impossible for me.
Right. Even if Diana did access light, like through the Tozu trinket, undoing the lock would still be difficult. Way too difficult of a situation to deliberately put herself in.
In which case, that can mean only one thing. Why could Diana not leave the boiler room? Someone else locked the door.
I got it.
So there is a third party.
Someone else must have locked the door.
Okay.
What?
This trial is getting interesting, y'all.
If we go with our current train of thought, the doorknob was rearranged so you could only lock it from the outside. It doesn't make sense for Diana to rearrange the lock, enter the room, and deliberately trap herself inside, which means someone else must have locked the door. I know this doesn't necessarily clear Diana's suspicion, but it's strange enough to warrant further investigation.
I'd rather resolve this thread before we move on to voting.
My ego is being stroked. Love this.
We could easily miss something important if we turn our noses away.
So, why did this mystery person close the door in the first place?
What if they saw the scuffle between Wolfie and Diana and closed the door to protect themselves?
Instead of seeking help? Or trying to stop the scuffle?
You say that like closing the door isn't exactly what you would do.
What kind of asshole do you take me for?
A coward.
Any chance they locked it to prevent Diana from escaping?
And somehow unscrewed the doorknob without drawing attention to themselves?
Didn't you hear him? He's talking about the door being locked, not the doorknob being unscrewed.
Unless two entirely different people just so happen to interfere with the boiler room at two entirely separate intervals. The one who locked the door is most likely the one who flipped it, yes?
Yes.
Then you should be wondering the same thing. How did they unscrew the doorknob without catching anyone's attention?
Yeah, doesn't sound possible.
Not in the moment, it isn't. But what if the doorknob had been swapped beforehand? Say this person knew Wolfgang and Diana were coming to the boiler room. They could have swapped the knob in advance, waited for Diana and Wolfgang to enter, and then closed and locked the door.
So the flipping of the doorknob was premeditated?
With what we currently know, I'd wager it's our safest assumption, at least until we hear Diana's side of the story.
Diana, since you were the last person with Wolfgang, your testimony could be our most valuable piece of evidence yet. You need to tell me what happened. If not for me, or for you, then at the very least, do it for Wolfgang's sake.
sorry. I'm really I wanted to help. I wanted to make everything okay. But all I could do was be useless. All I could do was watch him die. It's all my fault. All my fault. For doing the wrong thing.
So is this a confession, or...?
No!
She was trapped in there.
I
So
didn't
someone,
kill
okay.
Wolfgang. And I don't know who did, but I still failed him as a friend.
Okay, so she was in
I
there.
failed him then. And I failed him here.
So she went to go have the meeting with Wolfgang. Somebody knew they were having the meeting, flipped the door handle with the lock prior to the meeting happening. While Diana and Wolfgang were in there, they killed Wolfgang, trapped Diana in the room by locking the door in there, ran away. The killer's blood got hurt. So if Diana's not the one that got hurt, that means we do need to find somebody who did get hurt. Unless the person who got hurt was Diana, and we're sticking with that part of the story. Okay. I think I'm understanding.
But if I told the truth, things would be worse than they already are. But now that I've said nothing...
Diana watched Wolfgang die.
It's okay, sweetheart. Come on now, take deep breaths.
Yeah, we'll believe you no matter what you say.
Diana might actually be innocent. It's looking like that, but the nagging feeling in my chest still hasn't gone away. Damn it, what am I doing? Because of one girl, I've been doubting myself and jumping from one argument to another. If I can't piece together my own thoughts, how can I possibly piece together this case? I need to get a grip on myself. I need to keep sight of myself and the goal of this killer. Whatever is thrown at me next, I need to persevere. Because if I don't, if everyone else here votes wrong, I won't leave this place alive.
Has all this murder hubbub left your head in a tizzy? Perhaps you need a short break. Something to lighten the mood and let you collect yourself. Something like a nice cup of tea. Welcome, one and all, to the first episode of Tozu's Tea Time. If you haven't already, please sit back and relax. Here, we do not use our brains, but what are sheep good at, if anything? Most humans, and some sheep, tend to respond with a resounding absolutely nothing. Sheep cannot create art or invent medicine. For goodness sake, they can't even perform music. Their limited speech and quadrupedal locomotion prevents them from reaching the heights of humans. They're practically glued to the lower echelons of the food chain. No matter how hard sheep may try, they will never be anything more than their number tags. I can't say I like that answer. Too pessimistic for me. Plus, what of the sheep who still try? The sheep who realize their fate but continue to challenge it all the same. That they can be so determined to prove their worth when humans have all but deemed them microwavable meals. Isn't that something admirable? What a shame our sheep had to be so misguided. It seems that's about all the time we have. Thank you again for attending Tozu's Tea Time. No need for extravagant farewells. I've an inkling you'll be back for tea sooner than you can say Jack Robinson.
Jack
Who's
Robinson.
Jack Robinson? I have no idea. Ta-ta!
Alright, bye Tozu. It's been cool talking, I guess.
Diana, now's your chance to defend yourself. Tell me what happened.
Where do I even start, though?
How about you begin by explaining why you went to the boiler room?
Why I went there? It was 'cause of a note.
A note?
2 days ago, someone slid one into my room. I never got to see who. I just heard a knock. And when I walked over, there was a note under my door.
I don't remember any of this.
Sorry. It was midday-ish, and you weren't there at the time. And I didn't show you the note later because, well, I'll just read you what it said.
Diana, as you are aware, it is our obligation to speak with those whose blackmail we have obtained. After receiving your blackmail and reading the information disclosed in it, I believe a meeting between the two of us is warranted. In 2 days' time, please come to the underground boiler room at 8:45 a.m. Make sure to arrive promptly and close the door behind you. To avoid discourse, do not show anyone this letter. Do not approach me about it either, even in private. There is always the chance someone can hear. Wolfgang.
Wolfie wrote this?
So... But there was a note telling Wolfgang to go down at 8:15. Why would he specifically tell Diana to get there at 8:45, a whole 30 minutes later?
Wolfgang had Diana's blackmail? But didn't he have Jean's?
Hold on a sec. If you take a closer look, the handwriting on that note, doesn't it resemble the handwriting on Wolfgang's note?
You're actually right. Even though Wolfgang's note has been water damaged, the words I can make out were in the same messy scrawl as Diana's here.
Then someone else was posing as Wolfgang?
The killer, most likely. They must have thought his word was the only one Diana would follow.
Guess it worked, huh?
I didn't want to show this note earlier. Because I was scared of how people would try to twist it. Like saying I faked the note, or that I decided to kill because of it. I thought it would be better to just stay quiet. I know you guys think I'm stupid for agreeing to meet in a place like the boiler room. And I am.
Okay, well at least you're
I
self-aware.
am stupid. I just...
We love a self-aware queen.
Didn't want to disappoint Wolfgang. In case he really did write the note. Which was why I left my room around 8:40 a.m. and went downstairs.
Okay, so if Diana didn't kill him, then everyone's alibis is flying out the window because everyone was with someone.
It was just me. I did find the boiler
I'm
room door hanging
confused.
open a little bit. But I didn't think much of it. I just went inside and closed the door behind me. Since that's what the note asked me to do.
What did you see inside the boiler room?
The boiler room was really dark. So the first thing I noticed was actually the security camera light. My eyes had to take a few seconds to adjust to everything else. But after that, I finally saw him.
Oh, okay.
Wolfgang was lying in the water, making these weird noises. It didn't seem like he'd even notice me entering the room. Not until... Wolfgang? Hearing his name seemed to snap him out of his trance, because he slowly rose to his feet. Wolfgang, are you okay?
It's you.
Huh?
I can't believe it. I really am finally meeting you.
What do you mean?
Please, forgive me. Please forgive me for what I've become.
Wolfgang?
Despite how hard I tried, how much I wanted it to be true, I could never become you.
What?
I will always be a failure.
It's okay, Wolfgang. Look! There's stairs over here. Come over here and we can get out. I have no idea if he didn't hear me, or if he was just ignoring me. But, okay. I'll get closer to you then.
Oh, don't do that. He's gonna pull out a knife.
The platform, the part where the fence had a gap. Just take my hand, okay? And I'll pull you out. He slowly stumbled over.
Stumbled?
And he held my hand.
Stumbled. Remember, Jean was saying he smelled cereal and alcohol. Maybe somebody got Wolfgang drunk?
I didn't really think I could pull him out. I just wanted to be there for him. It was the best I could do. Because I didn't want to enter the water. Staying on the platform felt so much safer. And I really, really hate that it did. It's okay, Wolfgang. We'll get through this together, all right? I was looking at him when I said that. I was looking right at him. But somehow... somehow I didn't think to react. When he reached inside his blazer.
Bring her back. Bring her back!
I tried to leave the room, but the door was locked. I didn't know what to do. I started looking around for things to defend myself with. And that's when I saw the gun.
The taser gun? Did you use it?
I took the taser, and I aimed it at Wolfgang, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't shoot him. I just backed away from him.
Huh.
I couldn't understand anything.
Huh.
Why was this happening to me? Why was I being attacked? Why can't I do anything to...
I'm not like you. I'll never be like you. I won't give up until the world knows. I won't give up.
Huh. What the fuck is he referring to?
Until everyone knows me as...
until everyone
All of a
knows
sudden,
me as what.
everything turned white. Everything in front of me. Except Wolfgang. In those few seconds, he became pitch black. And then, so did everything else. Even though I didn't see Wolfgang fall over, I heard it. His body cracking against the pavement, and his knife falling into the water. I waited for the gasp of pain, for him to groan or mumble or say something, but there was nothing. There was just me and the silence. That's how it happened.
What the fuck?
That man attacked you?
Oh my goodness, Diana, I'm at a loss for words.
This is getting too much for me, bros. I think I'm gonna faint.
Holy shit. So Diana really did watch Wolfgang die.
Why was he so violent towards her? It's like he became an entirely different person.
The word you're looking for is crazy.
Why would Wolfgang say that in that particular moment?
How'd you manage to escape the boiler room after all that? By picking the door's lock. For reals? I wasn't even thinking. I just started feeling my way back to the door in the dark. And then, well, my supply bag. I remembered the spare hairpins I always kept inside. So I felt around the bag and dug one out. To be honest, I have no idea how I managed to unlock the door. The whole thing was repeated trial and error. Just minutes of me telling myself that somehow this next attempt will finally work.
Whoa! Actually unlocking the doors. That's like hitting a bullseye blindfolded.
Now we know why it took so long for her to escape.
I realized why it happened. Getting trapped inside, I mean. The door's lock was on the outside. So, someone must have set the lock before I came downstairs. So that when I closed the door, I'd be trapped.
The lock is normally on the inside too. The killer purposely flipped it, then left the door open so you would be the one to close it. That's for why the killer locked the door to begin with.
It was to frame Diana, right?
Right. The killer made Diana trap herself inside the boiler room, so they could kill Wolfgang in front of her, and force her to remain by his body. Had their plan worked, Diana would only be able to escape if someone from outside entered the boiler room, by which point, that someone would be stumbling across what looks like a cut-and-dry murder case.
If the tournament folk found Diana, they would have been playing right into the killer's hands.
Speaking of which, Diana, I'm curious to know, did you unlock the door before or after the tournament attendees arrived downstairs?
It sort of happened at the same time. Like, when I opened the door, there were already people walking down the stairs. Obviously, I couldn't stay inside the boiler room. If anyone saw me close to Wolfgang's body, it would look really bad. The hallway was a bit easier to make out in the dark. So I walked over to a wall bordering one of the storage closets and hid behind it. And stayed as quiet as possible. I was still bleeding a little from Wolfgang's cut though, and some of that blood ended up dripping onto the floor around me.
It's the blood on the underground floor! It's all coming together!
This was shortly before us tournament goers split up. And you made a run for it, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Down the hallway, up the stairs, and then as quietly as possible into my room. Since everything was still really dark, I had to patch myself using the Tozu Trinket's projection as my light. I realize this is a lot, and I know it's hard to believe without proof. So, if you guys could just give me a second.
Reaching into her makeup bag, Diana pulled out a wipe and began scrubbing at her arm.
I cleared up the blood pretty fast. Luckily for me, the cut wasn't that deep. There's still a chance it may leave a scar, though.
Damn.
Holy crap! That's awful!
It's okay. I'll cover it back up again.
Why did Wolfgang attack you for no reason?
I wouldn't say it was for no reason.
You're being kind of insensitive, man.
Huh? I didn't mean it like that. What I'm trying to say is, Wolfgang's actions may look random from an outsider's perspective, but from his perspective, well, judging by his behavior, it seems like he saw something which shook him to his core.
Like, there was something in the room that Diana didn't see?
That's impossible! It was only me and Wolfgang in the boiler room!
I don't believe Jean meant it in a literal sense.
Wolfgang literally saw something?
He thought he saw something, is my point.
You mean he had been hallucinating?
What did Wolfgang hallucinate for him to turn out the way Diana described?
You'd be surprised by the sort of things our minds can invent. I'm lucky to have never experienced anything myself, but I know some who have hallucinated nasty things. Demons and monsters.
So did someone
Or the feeling
drug
of
him?
being tortured. If Wolfgang went through something similar, I can see why he lashed out.
Now what the heck is going on at sea?
Of course.
We
these
still haven't
hallucinations don't
explained the
just happen out of the
shrapnel.
blue.
That has to be like a
More often
bomb
than
or like
not,
something like
there's
that.
substance
And then
induced.
mark on his neck has to be him being injected with something that made him hallucinate.
Just say Wolfgang took a hallucinogenic.
Hallucinogenics?
One which induced a lot of fatigue, too, judging by the way he lumbered about in Diana's account.
It would explain why Wolfgang mostly stayed in one place.
One place, which happened to be in the water.
Seems very deliberate. Aye. I reckon the killer knocked Wolfgang unconscious in order to drag him into the water, but knew he would eventually wake up again. So they drugged him with something which would basically make him despondent. As for where the drug came from...
The pharmacy.
Oh no! Don't tell me the killer robbed...
I knew exploring it was a bad idea.
It? What's this it we're talking about?
The pharmacy, obviously. Why the heck did we think leaving that place open was a good idea?
Beats
Now
me. I
someone
asked the
stole an
exact
item
same
and
fucking question.
Drugged Wolfgang. Fuck! I knew our promise was too good to be true. I can't trust any of you guys. And don't say Wolfgang drugged himself. Who wants to be tortured by demons?
Well, stranger people do exist.
That's rich coming from you.
It's just as I predicted. Exploring the pharmacy ended up paving the way for murder. Should I have made more of an attempt to stop people from exploring? Back then, all I did was... Then again, nobody would have listened to me. Especially not with Wolfgang in control.
If we know where the perpetrator got their chemicals, I guess our next step is figuring out how they did the drugging.
Agreed. It would help us better understand the timeline of events, and potentially even validate Diana's testimony.
Sounds like you guys can leave this one to me. I'm the kind of person who knows someone back to front the moment I meet them. If you haven't already realized, I've gone and read this killer like an open book.
You're the last person I trust to reach a correct conclusion.
Just you wait! The second you
Real.
know what I gotta say, you'll be eating those words.
Will she? Pinning down how Wolfgang was drugged may validate Diana's testimony. The question is, how did the killer drug him? Wolfgang's neck.
I bet the killer took a pill and forced Wolfgang to swallow it.
Just jab him at that point.
How would the killer?
Make him swallow a pill. There was no proof they restrained him. Did the killer not Wolfgang? Maybe that was their way of restraining him. You can't force an unconscious person to swallow a pill. What if it was a drug? You don't need to eat. Like an inhalable
substance?
Yeah, like a powder or something. The pharmacy does have a large collection of over-the-counter sedatives, but there's too many for us to isolate any specific one.
I bet the
took a pill. And forced Wolfgang to swallow it.
Just that point. I got it.
Thanks, Mark. That's
When
what the
Wolfgang's
mark on
wounds
his
were
neck
discussed
is.
Earlier, it was mentioned he had a tiny red dot below the bruise on his neck. During the investigation, I thought this dot was a scab from a mole or pimple. But knowing Wolfgang was drugged, it's clear to see what it really is. A puncture wound.
Considering the timeline of events, an injection would check out. If Wolfgang got drugged a little after 8:15 a.m. and was already feeling the effects when Diana arrived at 8:45 a.m., then we're dealing with something which entered his bloodstream in under 30 minutes. Any normal pill would have taken, probably an hour to dissolve.
Whilst
fair.
an injection would be much quicker. I see.
That's probably another reason why the killer knocked Wolfgang unconscious. It would have been incredibly difficult to inject him if he was still moving around. Only when they had him right where they wanted, dazed and unable to fight back, did they plunge the syringe into his neck.
With said syringe being filled with a hallucinogenic.
But if this all happened a few minutes after 8:15 a.m., doesn't that make it impossible to pin a suspect?
What? Why is it impossible?
Because everybody's got an alibi for that time.
That's right. That's why we thought it was Diana.
I mean, Damon and I were in my dorm room, and the other party people...
8:15 a.m. Yeah, I was already in the dining hall with Jet, Mark, and Eva.
I left Wolfgang's dorm right after the morning announcement and spent the rest of the hour with Jean.
When Nona and I were in our dorm room together.
And me and Eloise were already sitting down in the courtyard.
Toshiko was giving me the medication she grabbed from the pharmacy.
And,
Wait,
I stayed in my dorm room until 8:40 a.m.
wait. Toshiko went to the pharmacy. She could have also grabbed the hallucinogenic. And while she went to go get the pharmacy drugs, while she was not with Ingrid at that time, could have gone to go knock Wolfgang unconscious, hit him with the with the thing in the back of the neck. He gets knocked down. They inject him in there, and they put him and then they lock him in the room. And then that's when Diana goes there. I'm gonna be so upset if Toshiko is the first culprit because I was really hoping she'd be a survivor. But the evidence is starting to speak for itself.
If everyone can be accounted for, we really can't assign a suspect.
So, we're back to square one?
Someone here must be lying.
And doesn't plan to stop.
What's screwing us over here? Is there a part of the mystery that we're getting wrong? Or could it be we're overlooking something? It was ruled out as having no relation to the murder because the wires don't touch the water. But the position of it, the fact it's destroyed, the timing. One coincidence is easy to wave off, but it's coincidence after. Then there's something more going on. There's something more to the generator.
Everyone has an alibi for 8:15 a.m. Is it possible the killer never actually attacked Wolfie at that time. But his little note said to come by at 8:15 a.m., didn't it?
Ingrid, do you remember what you said when we couldn't figure out who stole Desmond's taser?
To be honest, I'm drawing a blank.
You suggested we switch subjects and discuss Wolfgang's injuries instead, which we did. As a result, we ended up unraveling more about the case than if we had stuck to the original topic. Right now, we're at a dead end. If we can't get any more leads out of this current discussion, then that's a sign to switch our focus.
Switch our focus to what?
I want to take another look at Diana's testimony.
Mine?
Back when you were describing Wolfgang's death, something stuck out to me.
I won't give up.
The flash of white Diana described must have been the generator exploding, with the darkness afterwards being the blackout. Think about the order of events there. In just a few seconds, the boiler room's generator explodes, and Wolfgang falls over dead. Doesn't it sound like the two are correlated?
Oi, didn't we go over this already?
We did. The generator has nothing to do with Wolfgang's death. Its wires weren't touching the water.
Indeed. Which is why the murder weapon is the taser gun.
Diana said she never used the taser, though.
Then she's lying!
What? That's not true! I never fired the gun!
It's all good. I believe you. Sure, nobody can dispute the gun was fired. What can be disputed, though, is when it got fired. I wouldn't be surprised if the killer fired that gun way in advance. Like, sometime before Wolfgang arrived downstairs and left it in the boiler room for us to find later.
What? So the taser gun isn't the murder weapon?
If Wolfgang wasn't killed with the taser gun or the generator, what other options are we left with?
The taser gun is the only option which makes sense. The murder weapon can't be anything else.
The true murder weapon. Is it possible there's a third source of electricity we haven't considered yet? Am I grasping at straws?
Anyway, the only proof Diana never shot the taser is her own word.
Huh?
Ava! What do you mean?
All the evidence supporting your version of events is circumstantial. The note you showed us? That could be a fake alibi you made for yourself. The fact that it has the same handwriting as Wolfgang's is already suspicious.
Couldn't that just mean the same person tricked them?
If you earnestly believe Diana didn't write it, then maybe. But do you see what I'm saying? There's no proof Diana never wrote the notes. There's only her word to go by. Because if she did write them, everything about her entering the boiler room at 8:45 a.m. and being locked inside could be a total lie.
I get what you're saying. But if we run with the idea that Diana was the one waiting for Wolfgang all the way back at 8:15 a.m., then we're stuck with the issue we had last time. Why did Diana wait over an hour to kill him?
That's also circumstantial. None of us know what really went on between those two in an hour. Ruling someone out because they took a long time to murder is stupid.
Without context? Sure, I'd say the same. But since the boiler room is unlocked, anyone can enter. If Diana knocked Wolfgang out, then she took over an hour to kill him with that info in mind.
Okay, but who would enter? No one wants to make a detour down some gross, freaky-looking basement. The boiler room is probably the most covert place a person can be.
The most covert place. Her words do make sense. After all, I chose to meet Tozu in the boiler room for the very same reason.
Diana claims she didn't write the notes, and she claims she didn't shoot the gun, but where's the hard proof she didn't do any of these things?
The answer lies in what destroyed the generator.
What?
Didn't we already talk about that?
All you guys did was discuss theories, never anything concrete. Settling for a theory isn't good enough when our lives are on the line. In the same way Ava can't rule out Diana's involvement in the case, we can't rule out the generators.
So, what should we do? Just throw out ideas?
It's what we've been doing this whole time.
Oakley dokley. Alright, everyone, let's put our thinking hats on. If we work together, we'll unravel this mystery for sure.
Oakley dokley.
Ready? On your marks, get set, go!
Shrapnel.
Why did the generator blow up?
Could have just been an electrical fault.
No.
So, a coincidence?
Is this the best situation? To be waving stuff off as a coincidence?
Did the killer throw something at the generator that made it explode?
Perhaps it's the fault of the taser gun? The electrical discharge it released might have connected with the generator and created an overabundance of energy, which caused everything in the circuit to pop.
Probably. There's no proof anything besides the taser was wrong.
No,
There's shrapnel, so there's evidence of a possible bomb.
Unfortunately, Ava, I have to disagree. You say nothing, but the taser could have been involved.
This is a really well-written mystery.
There's one possibility you didn't consider. The shrapnel in the water.
This is really good.
Do you mean those bits of red metal which were floating around?
Right. The ones that look like the aftermath of an explosion. Due to their proximity to the generator, it's safe to assume the two are connected.
Can't that just be debris left by the generator?
Except this debris is a completely different color and lacks the rust the generator has accumulated. We're obviously looking at the remnants of something else, which means an object we haven't yet identified was caught in the explosion.
I'm floating near it. What was floating near the shrapnel? Oh. The extension cord.
This is it. In the water was also an extension cord, half of which had been burnt away.
Huh? Did the cord get caught in the explosion?
Seems that cord has the misfortune of floating around.
I agree,
the
but I
wrong
clocked it a
place
while
at the
ago. I
wrong
mentioned
time.
the answer in asterisks above. Now I am just waiting to see if I'm right.
The building's extension cord supply seems to be kept inside storage closet D. So in a way, yeah, it was definitely in the wrong place.
Storage closet D, huh? It was hard to make out much of it in the dark. And after the power came on, Kai came screaming for us to leave our closets. But I do recall seeing some extension cords peeking out from behind a shelf.
Since we already know the killer raided one storage closet, anyone else willing to bet they raided this
My
one
ego
too?
needs it because the way I am glued to this computer screen. That's so real of you, Diva.
Probably something involving the generator, given its proximity to the cord.
Same thing with the red bits, even though we don't know what they are.
I mean, I was completely wrong about who I thought was going to be the first person dead, so. But have already been discussed in this trial. If I were to flip my thinking and consider the clues we haven't discussed yet, there is no proof what I have in mind is related to the shrapnel, but when all other options are ruled out, I can only turn towards the one that hasn't. The one thing the mysterious shrapnel might be related to. It's the one thing we haven't talked about, right? It's gotta be this.
This is it.
Yeah, because where'd the smell come from?
Hold that thought. We may be able to identify the shrapnel using context clues. During the investigation, there was a strange smell permeating the boiler room. It took me a moment to notice, but when I did, well, the best way to describe the scent would be if you mix cereal and alcohol together.
Cereal and alcohol? Talk about specific.
Mm-hmm. 'Tis a sign a chemical reaction was at play.
Wait, you recognize the smell?
Chemical reactions can produce some pretty pungent odors. Usually something to the tune of alcohol mixed with cereal, or fruits, or eggs. I noticed the smell going into the investigation, but it had completely slipped my mind until now.
Could it be a chemical reaction was caused by the taser?
The gun never touched the water. There's no reason for it to be the source of the smell.
What about the generator?
Considering the state of it, that generator would smell more burnt than anything else.
If the chemical reaction can't be explained
Hi, oh my
by
god, just got home from work. Hi, Amari.
the generator or the taser
It's so
gun,
good to see you
we need
off
to
of
consider the
work.
possibility that
But welcome
the
in.
explanation is the one piece of evidence still evading us: the shrapnel.
Can someone translate this into less complicated talk?
It was just a long-winded way of saying he's using process of elimination.
I know it sounds like a stretch, but if you follow this line of reasoning, a lot more questions start getting answered. Think about it. If the smell and shrapnel are linked, then whatever object the shrapnel belongs to must contain chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking for a metal object, which is also packed with chemicals?
Surely something like that would be kept inside the pharmacy.
Looking at my notes... When we originally visited the pharmacy, I recorded
Perfume.
everything I saw.
It was perfume.
bright red metal object would have definitely caught my eye.
It was perfume. The perfume from the fucking store. From the hygiene
I got
section.
lots of metallic objects in the dorm room.
They're saying it smelled like alcohol and cereal. Something sweet and fruity smelling and alcohol. That has to be perfume. I just realized. I know what it is. Oh my god. Big ol' slabs of metal. What does that sound so familiar? Hold on, that's right. What Ingrid said just now is similar to what she said at night. Everyone began bunking together. Fancy tools and metals. At the time, people were talking about their dorm rooms being themed around their talents. Could it be? Could the shrapnel actually be the remnants of the unique device that guy boasted about having in his room? This feels like a mystery mouse tool I'm gonna need to remember for later. Oh, it produces a lot of electricity and is lightweight. Sounds like a murder weapon.
In the business, we call this foreshadowing.
Here, dumb ass. Every thought in your mind is dumb. Every word you speak is dumb. I pray that the world is against you. You may start to notice people spending a lot of energy trying to tear you down. Take it personally. You are not brilliant. You are not strong. You are alone. And remember, whatever you do, kill yourself.
The only way to know for sure is to put you on the spot.
It has to be you!
It has to be you.
Jed, I need to ask you something.
Oh my god.
What's up?
Oh my god.
Can you tell me what's inside your dorm room?
Like, a full-on list?
Whatever works.
Sure thing. I got a pretty gnarly collection of parts and accessories. Blind spot mirrors, lithium batteries, wheels, spare brakes, you name it. Oh, I even have the legendary mantle from the 1984's Grand Prix winning Speedster.
That's what I was hoping to hear.
Cool. So, why'd you want to know? Unless... Wait, I'm not being suspected, am I? No. Don't try to rope me into this, bro. I've got nothing to do with the murder.
I know you don't. You have an alibi. The only reason I ask is because that mysterious red shrapnel may be the remnants of one of your lithium batteries.
There we go. All right, we're getting somewhere.
A lithium battery might explain the smell in the air.
That's right.
And lithium, that's an explosive substance.
Exactly.
Okay,
so it wasn't perfume. That's interesting. I thought it would be perfume. Cereal?
Wouldn't someone have heard an explosion,
Really?
though?
All right.
I did.
Really?
During the tournament, right before we lost power.
Oi, that's right. That was a burn.
Wait! I remember hearing it too!
I initially assumed the generator made the noise somehow. But if Jet's car batteries contain an explosive substance...
Hey, Jet, were your batteries bright red at all?
Maybe?
You don't know for sure?
I never took the batteries out of their packaging. The packaging isn't red, I can tell you that, but...
And
the
he
actual
told
batteries?
everyone about the lithium
Yeah, I got
batteries,
nothing.
so everybody would have known they were in his room.
Pretty much.
Well, what's the reaction time of a lithium battery?
The reaction time?
Damn.
When a lithium battery hits the water, how long does it take to combust? I think once we know that, we can decide whether or not the battery is relevant to the case.
A lithium battery would be an almost instantaneous reaction, I'm pretty sure.
Lithium isn't a metal I've worked with, but it got beat into my head never to mix it with substances it doesn't like. All that electricity, the battery would have let out when it hit the water. It must have went straight into poor Wolfie.
There's warning labels on the battery for a reason.
Damn.
Okay. If the reaction is instantaneous, then the battery would have entered the water only seconds before the generator exploded. That's really weird.
Is it?
According to Diana's testimony, when the explosion happened, she was still holding the taser gun.
It's a very calculated crime with multiple stories and suspects. Yeah, there's so many layers to this crime and to this story already. We're on chapter 1, and we've already had like 2 red herrings and like 3 twists that like changed every angle of the crime we knew. Girl, I'm gagged.
In which case, who threw the battery into the water?
Huh?
Right, who threw the battery in the water?
Good point. We can rule out Wolfgang, since the Blackens can only be a student who kills another student. And Diana.
It was only Diana and Wolfgang in the boiler room. So unless Diana herself was the one to throw the battery, then the battery can't play a part in the murder.
I didn't throw the battery. I promise.
The shrapnel and generator are too close for comfort. They must be correlated. I'll admit that Diana throwing the battery is a possibility, but that's all it is, a possibility. There may still be another way for the battery to enter the water. Until I've ruled that out, I won't settle for a culprit just yet. Okay, I won't read your text, girl. Generator, shrapnel, and center core taser gun.
If the battery is related to the case, only Diana could have thrown it in the water.
But my arm had been cut. Lifting a battery would hurt too much.
Neo batteries are pretty light.
It clearly couldn't have fallen from somewhere. So it must have been submerged another way. Perhaps something akin to what Eva described?
If that why is there a taser?
Judging by the shrapnel, the battery would have landed
In the water, a few inches from the generator.
Not the hardest shot to make.
Everyone is so quick to say the battery was thrown, but when I consider the boiler room and which objects the killer could have leveraged. The vent. The vent that we escaped from in the prologue. When me and Eva woke up on day 1, we were in the boiler room and we jumped on top of the generator and we like looked through the vent. Somebody could have pushed something through the vent. What that person considers impossible starts to sound anything but.
If the battery is related to the case...
I think I know. No. There we go.
No, that's wrong.
Okay, I got it.
No. The battery might actually have fallen from the generator.
Right. Exactly.
What makes you say that?
The shrapnel's position in front of the generator suggests there's a correlation between the two. However, it's unlikely Diana threw the battery at the generator. Not only is the boiler room difficult to see in, the generator is positioned far enough from the concrete platform that Diana, with her wounded arm, will need to stand on the platform's edge to make the shot. Which would obviously put her in danger of being attacked by Wolfgang again.
Yeah. Wolfgang was really close. He could reach over to me if he wanted.
If the battery hadn't been thrown, the only other possibility is that it fell down into the water. And considering the layout of the boiler room, what else could the battery fall off of? Except the generator.
Are you saying the battery was sitting on top of the generator?
Not on top, but maybe. Please let me say the vent. Please let me feel smart. Oh, suspended because of the cord. Oh, so does the vent not play a part?
They have been suspended over the generator.
Man, I hate it here.
Suspended over.
This is it.
It had to be the cord.
The killer could have tied the extension cord around the battery and slung the battery over the generator. If the cord and battery were tied together at the time of the generator's explosion, it would explain why half of the cord had been burned away.
The more you explain it, the more unbelievable it sounds.
What if that's the point? Maybe the killer chose a crazy method because no one would believe it.
I don't see how weaving a cord into the mix is any more beneficial than leaving it out. If anything, the cord adds extra weight.
Which would be especially inconvenient for Diana, because her arm was bleeding.
Right. It wouldn't benefit Diana to hold the cord. So, what if she didn't? Something else may have been supporting the cord instead.
Okay. Something like... What was holding the cord? An object.
I got it.
Throughout this trial, we've assumed the killer held the battery in some form or another. If the battery was on its own, the killer tossed it in. If the battery was wrapped with a cord, the killer held the other end of the cord. But in the same way something else can hold the battery, can't something else also hold the cord?
Ugh. My head's starting to spin.
Are you talking about something which could keep the cord in place?
Something that could keep the cord in place. If I imagine the cord and the battery, it's tied around in front of the generator in the same spot. The vent.
This is it.
Which means one of the tournament people has to be... The killer has to be one of the tournament people.
What vent?
The one above the generator.
Which means it's either Mark, Jean, Jet, Cassidy, Eva, Grace, Kai, or
There's a
Damon.
vent above the generator?